What's going on, everybody? I'm Patrick Chapla, founder of POWLAX and creator of POWLAX Master Coach, and in this video I'm extremely excited to share with you guys the triangle show drill. The triangle show drill is one of 3 drills that I developed that really focuses in on the team defensive concepts of sliding, recovering, and really understanding how team defense works. And the reason why I developed the 3 drills is because as I became a head coach, I was so focused on offense, I really didn't understand the defensive side of the ball well enough to, really coach it well while we were doing 6-on-6s, 3-on-3s, 3-on-2s. And so as I began to study the defensive side of the ball, I realized that there weren't very many specific team defense drills. There was a lot of, how to approach, how to make checks, make sure you break down, all of those types of drills. But as far as really teaching sliding and recovering, there wasn't much out there, and I was getting tons of questions from youth coaches on how to really develop this. And so I set out to design drills that taught crease sliding, which is the line bump drill, how to slide adjacent, which is the triangle show drill that we're going to go over here, and then another drill that actually incorporates both together, which is the 5-on-a-die drill. And so as we get into triangle show drill, we're going to be focusing on communication, how to slide, and how to recover. Those are the 3 things we're really trying to focus in on within this drill. And as we get into it, we're going to do our slides and recoveries against 3 separate kind of motions. The first is going to be a dodge with no real motion. The second is going to be a carry shallow cut, and the third is going to be a circular motion. As you develop your own familiarity with this drill, you can also add in picks. We're not going to cover it here because there's going to be another video on picks specifically, but so you can also incorporate that into the triangle show drill as well. So now let's talk about who exactly we're going to train with the triangle show drill. Now, I am a coach who loves to train all of my players with a defensive philosophy because I feel that as attackmen and middies understand how a defense works, they really know how to attack a defense. And also, of course, I love to have my middies learn how to do these defensive strategies. And as far as close defensemen learning it, of course, I'm going to have them run it too. But so figuring out exactly who you want to run the drill is a big part of how you decide to run the drill. Because if you don't want your attackmen learning these defensive concepts, you can have attackmen learning shooting or attack motions while the defense is concerned with the triangle show drill. And so once you figure out exactly who you want to run the drill, now we're going to go into how we're going to move through the drill. So there are 2 separate ways that I really like to run triangle show drill. The first is with an accordion style, which pretty much means that we're going to have one place we set up and run the drill so that everybody can see it. And then after we're done diagramming the drill, we're going to send everybody out to their own groups where they can run it for 4 or 5 minutes, and then we'll bring everybody back up when we want to go to the next part of the drill. The other way of running it is you can have one location where you run the drill and everybody else will watch the drill in action, and then we'll rotate new people in. So the accordion style really focuses on getting everybody as many reps as they possibly can, but it's really, if you don't have coaches who are watching, making sure players are doing it right or players don't hold each other accountable, it can be better to do it in the one location where we're having players sub, so that you can make sure that everybody really understands exactly what we're doing. Once we've decided exactly how we want to move through the drill, now we've got to set up each station or the specific drill. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to place a cone right in the middle of where we want our drill to take place. And then we're going to walk out 10 yards in 3 directions, making a triangle, and place cones at each of those spots. Once we have our triangle, now we're going to add our players. There's going to be 3 offensive players and 3 defensive players. The offensive players are going to start at the cones, and 1 will have a ball. The defensive players will play inside the cones, 1 being a ball, 1 being left, and 1 being right. Now let's get into how to actually run the drill. The first thing we're going to do when starting triangle show drill is we are going to work on exchanging the ball around the outside and having the defenseman in the middle work on communicating, approaching the ball, and spidering in to make sure that they can help if a dodge happens. So as O1 has the ball, X1 will start and he will say ball. X2 will say left and X3 will say right. For X2 and X3, they want to be positioned midway between their player and the center cone so that if O1 decides to dodge, they're in a position where they can help X1. As the ball is passed from O1 to O2, X2 will see approach the ball, X1 will spider in to be right, and X3 will get ball side leverage for left. And so what I mean by ball side leverage is instead of being closer to X1, now he will be closer to X2, but he will still be splitting between the center cone and O3. As the ball is passed to O3, X3 will approach and say ball, X2 will spider in, get sideways and say right, and X1 will get ball side leverage and say left. It's really important as we start this drill, even though we're just exchanging the ball around the outside, that we are making sure our players are communicating effectively. It's very important that we hold them accountable to communicate all the time on defense. Once our players have a good understanding of how they're going to react when the ball is being exchanged around the perimeter, now we have to make sure we know what we're going to communicate with as we start sliding and recovering and as the offense starts to run real motions. So there are two verbal cues that we're going to give to our defense, and there are two nonverbal cues we're going to give to our defense. The two nonverbal cues are point them through and show. And so point them through means when we have a recovering player, a player who is inside the defense is going to direct him to his assignment. Show pretty much means that if a Dodger's dodging toward me but I am not defending him, I'm going to make myself big in a dangerous position so that he wants to go around me. If I show myself, I can deter him from getting really dangerous and going to the goal really hard. The two verbal cues we're going to use are find one, which is a sliding player telling a player on ball to find a new player. And then the last one is switch, which is pretty much a off-ball player telling the on-ball player that he and the on-ball player are going to switch assignments and switch players. Now let's see some of these terms in action as we go over a dodge with no motion. In this first example, O1 is going to dodge to his right, and O2 and O3 are not going to move, so we can get the basis of how we want to slide if there is no motion. And so as O1 dodges, X2 is going to slide and say find one to X1, letting X1 know that he can recover. As O1 is dodging, X3 is also going to spider in towards the ball and make sure that he is splitting O2 and O3, because with X2 gone, he is now accountable for O2 and O3. Once O1 has drawn a slide, he's going to pass to either O2 or O3. In our example, he's going to pass to O2. X3 has to go play O2 because he was previously splitting both players, and once one of those players gets the ball, he has to play him. As X3 plays O2, he's going to point X1 through to O3 so that we can then reset our defense. In the event that O1 passes to O3, X3 would stay and play O3, and he would point X1 to O2. After each complete set of a dodge, a slide, and a recovery, the offense will then move the ball around the perimeter again until another player decides to dodge. What we'd really like to make sure happens is that each one of the defensive players has actively participated in every position before moving on to the next group. As we're running this defensively with dodges but no offensive motion, it's important to understand exactly which player we're focusing on developing their defensive understanding. For the most part, when I've run this drill, I'm really not focusing too much on the player on ball or the player who slides. They seem to really understand. The player I really want to focus on is that third player who, as a slide goes, has to spider into a position to split his own man and the slide player's man. And once players really grasp the idea of if a slide goes, I now have to cover two, the whole floodgates open in our defensive understanding, and players can really start to fly around and be very smart on the defensive side of the ball. As we get into carry shallow cuts, now we have the option of using the switch call, and it's really important that players understand that they shouldn't be using the switch call all the time. They should most likely be sliding for the majority of these, because as you call switch, if I'm on ball and I am playing my man and you tell me I have to switch, but your player is running full speed the other direction, it's going to take me a little while to stop my full momentum this way and catch him behind me. And so it's better if we slide, because if we slide, I can recover to the middle and another player can pick up my guy if he gets the ball, rather than me needing to get back to someone running the opposite direction. The next thing that we need to make sure we cover before getting into carry shallow cuts is the idea of free doubles and overlaps. And so an overlap is not a shallow cut. A shallow cut is when, say, you and me are on the same team and I'm running at you with the ball. You need to get out of the way so your player can't double me, right? And so if you run towards the goal and under and behind me, that's awesome, because you drag your defenseman with you as you come under and your defenseman can't double me. But if you decide to run over the top of me, which means further away from the goal, that means your defenseman, as he's following you, can double me while playing you, which is called a free double. So it's important that if your players are doing overlaps instead of shallow cuts, that the defense knows that they can free double the player with the ball. And that will really give your offensive players an understanding that we want to make sure that we are shallow cutting, not overlapping. The drill starts with the ball swinging around to 0-1. As 0-1 catches the ball, he's going to carry towards 0-3. 0-3 shallow cuts underneath him. As 0-3 shallow cuts, X3 needs to show by maintaining hub integrity, which means staying inside of 0-3, but almost trailing him so that if he needs to leave to slide, he can. If X3 decides to slide, he can say two things. He can say switch or find one. Find one's better, like we just talked about, because the switch can be really hard to get back to players who are moving full speed. As X3 slides, X1 recovers in and is directed by X2 on where to go. If the pass goes to 0-2, X2 will play him and point X1 to 0-3. If the pass goes to 0-3, X2 will play 0-3 and point X1 back to 0-2. Now let's move right into a circular motion, and as far as what each offensive player is doing, you can imagine that this is a dodge, follow, float. You can also imagine this is a dodge, clear through, follow, but the main idea is that the offensive players, if this is the dodger, they're going to move in a circle. The drill starts with the ball moving around the perimeter to 0-1. As 0-1 dodges to his right, 0-2 will clear through and 0-3 will follow. This puts added pressure on X2 and X3 to make sure that they are staying sideways with their men or splitting two until they decide to slide. In our example, 0-1 is going to dodge to his left. X3 will show by maintaining ball side leverage and staying sideways. X2 will spider in towards the ball, accounting for 0-3 and 0-2. As X3 slides, he says find one, and X1 recovers to the middle where X2 directs him to 0-3 or 0-2 away from the pass, and then the drill recycles. As I started running triangle show drill in some of my practices, what I noticed was that a lot of the offensive players kind of started getting bored, and some of the defensive players just, either didn't quite grasp it or weren't just having as much fun as I'd like them to have on a lacrosse field. And so one of the ways to really re-engage players as they do triangle show drill is to make it a competition drill. You can have offenses work on, a specific motion, or they can do whatever they want. They can use double moves. They can really get into being more creative offensively, and defensively they will have to move faster. They will have to make reactions a lot quicker. And the way that you do that is by, instead of having a cone in the middle, you have a bucket. And the offensive job is to try to put the ball in the bucket. And by put the ball in the bucket, I don't mean throw a nice little toss. I mean actually just like dropping the ball in the bucket because you got into a dangerous position in the middle of the defense. And so what you'll notice is that as the players start to compete, they'll be way more physical, they'll have to move faster, the offense will actively be having fun, be physical dodging, and it really does create another level of commitment and fun to the triangle show drill. A couple of the drills that I really like to pair with triangle show drill are hawk drill, which will help players work on their approaches, getting on the hips, and actively playing individual defense. The next one is obviously any type of 3v3s where you're working on sliding and recovering, because then the defense is on an actual field and the offense is actually trying to score. And any of the concepts, if they don't link over to the real field, you'll be able to really pinpoint exactly what a specific player might not have understood from triangle show drill. The last two drills are, of course, line bump drill and 5-on-a-die drill, because they all work on the same type of concepts. And once players, especially an entire defense, if an entire defense understands all the concepts of slide and recovery defense, they are going to be a tremendous force in any league, anywhere. As you guys begin to use triangle show drill in some of your practices, I know that you will see a big jump in understanding of how adjacent slides work within not only triangle show drill, but in a lot of your smaller scale drills. And if you guys have any questions, or you feel like I didn't cover one specific topic that I should have, definitely let me know by emailing me at patrick@powlax.com. Definitely check out the other drills at powlaxmastercoach.com, like the line bump drill and 5-on-a-die drill if you're really focusing in on defense. And if you really like this drill, make sure to share it. Have a good one, and I will see you guys in the next video.